Yeah.
Uh, Hello, I'm Manoj Jana, founder and CEO of Biohook Scientific Community. I'm joined by Dr. Sudip Das, Biohook Scientific Community Chairperson, Dr. Das from Technical University of Munich, Germany. He's a staff scientist. And we are honored to welcome Dr. Shankar Bandopadhyay, today guest speaker, Dr. Shankar Bandopadhyay from Gates Foundation, Deputy Director Polio, and recently received a Park Mohan Award, which also known as Vaccine Nobel Award. Once again, Dr. Anando, thanks a lot for joining us. I know you are always busy because we are managing so much thing. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah.
It is
Thank
my
you for your time.
pleasure. It is really my pleasure. Good to see you both, Sudip and Manoj.
Yes.
Uh,
I
so
think it's I want to add that I think this is, I think what I want to add, obviously, there are a lot of people who would be listening to this, but maybe there are some new people who would not know about what we do. So Manoj was so the brain, it is Manoj's brainchild, actually, Biofocus. We are a community of people, mostly from academics, also from industry, biology people. Sometimes we also have chemistry people involved. We're trying to build a community of basically, you can say academics, or we can say we're trying to build as a think tank, so to say. We are trying to help people in making their science global, or let's say have the global exposure of science. And I think we would like to tell people that science is not only done in the basement in a lab, but also outside in the field, or maybe as an entrepreneur, maybe as a policymaker. So many different avenues are there. So I think this is what we aim to do. Change the status quo in people's mind, and specifically in subcontinent, where I think we still lack that kind of exposure as to what are the possibilities of doing science, and what do students would think. Okay, what do I do after doing a master's or a PhD, right? So this is what we aim to do. And I think our community is growing. And for the people listening for the first time, you can find us on LinkedIn at Biofoc, or find me or find Manoj, and it will take you to Biofoc as well. So I think Manoj, you can proceed with you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sudip. Dr. Anando, my first question is that what inspired you during your medical school in Kolkata, to focus on public health?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this. There were many things, many people, incidents that I think inspired me. Just to get into medical school, I would say it was my family, especially my grandmother, who was a force behind the person that I am today, and also the choices that I made in my academic career. So I would say, she was a major force behind my choices, my family, my friends as well. But while I was at the medical school, I think it was mostly the patients, the people who would come in to the medical school. And by the way, I studied at Calcutta National Medical College, which is in Park Circus, Kolkata. And I would see a lot of patients that were, having complications of vaccine preventable diseases. I think that seeded something while I was studying, and I think subconsciously, at least, I started to explore more. And I think this discord used to disturb me a little bit. On one hand, I was studying that there were affordable, effective vaccines available. At the same time, when I was at the outpatient clinics, even in the indoor hospitals, I would see, as I said, patients suffering from vaccine preventable diseases, particularly children. So I think that inspired me, that pushed me to understand this issue more, this discord between why there is availability of life-saving tools, but at the same time, why so many people are actually not getting it. So that was something that was there, I would say. I didn't probably consciously realize it, but the subsequent choices I made in my career, I think, reflected that this observation had an impact.
Yep. It's quite
Great.
nice.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. Means when you think to join, means you're a medical background student. You completed your medical study from Calcutta University. Then when you decide to join WHO, and what is your role actually, basically? Actually, as per my
Yeah, so,
knowledge, you are joining WHO
correct.
first, then move, get.
That is right. That is right. Yeah. So, to be honest, Manoj, when I was going through these phases, after completing my medical graduation, there was a bit of a choice in front of me. One was the traditional pathway, where I could, in a way, go back to studies and prepare for the post-graduation or the MD examination, and then choose a career path which was more likely to be clinical medicine. On the other hand, there was something in me that was pushing me to actually apply what I already learned through my medical school, medical graduation right away, and be close to people, be close to patients. So I think I chose the latter. I did decide that this is the time that I should actually be closer to the communities. And an option that came in front of me was this opportunity with World Health Organization in the polio project to work as a surveillance medical officer. I didn't quite know what I was getting into, to be very honest. I took this up as a bit of a challenge on multiple fronts, because one challenge was to leave my beloved city, Kolkata, and be placed somewhere else.
Yeah.
That was a big challenge for me. I never lived outside Kolkata. During my medical school days, during my high school days, it was all Kolkata, all my house in Behala. So that was a big challenge. Then the second one, Manoj and Sudip, was around the kind of work. As a medical student, I knew what was community health and what was public health. I didn't quite know how to practice it. So this extension of knowing what is epidemiology and preventive medicine to actually applying that in the field, I really didn't have much of an idea. But that was a bit of the unknown that drove me when I was, as it happens, in your mid-20s, you're drawn more to unknowns and challenges, I guess. So that I gave in to that that emotion, I think. And then the third element was the fact that I wanted to be financially stable as well. I thought this job opportunity with WHO will give me some flexibility from an economic standpoint as well, to make eventual career choices that maybe is more aligned to what I want to do. So, and there were many other factors as well, but these were the primary ones that I decided to take on this challenge and move into territories that I didn't explore before.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think what you said, to give in to this, I think this is very inspiring, because I think nowadays I personally see, maybe I'm biased because maybe I'm a bit old, but it's because I see that lessening a bit. I think that attitude of let's go out of the comfort zone is what we want to bring to the table to us, to our listeners.
Mhm.
I think this is a very important point, that you
Mhm.
don't know what this will bring. But since it is something fascinating, and I completely understand from your point of view, coming from medicine, it is a it is definitely a curiosity as to what is happening in the field, what is exactly happening in public health. I'm doing my job in the clinic, but what is exactly happening outside, right? So this I think is a very interesting aspect of it. But I would also want to ask, I'm very intrigued by the transition. What was your first day? Okay, that's the second question. What were you asked during the interviews, and also what was your first day looking like? Like, what did it look like the first day at WHO?
Well, I'm glad you asked this, because not too many people have really gotten into this, but I would love to talk about both these things. So the interview was very interesting. And I think this is important to talk about because, again, as a medical student, we are not that used to job interviews, right? At least during that time. And we are talking about 2005, 2006, so roughly 20 years ago.
Wow.
I didn't have a CV, to be honest. It was just a piece of paper, written my address and my my degree, and that's it. Not really a formal CV. So that was in itself a first experience to appear for a WHO job interview. But the people were so kind, so generous, and so welcoming that I didn't really feel pressured. There was of course some amount of stress, but the questions were very open, directed around the kind of job that I was getting into. I remember my 2B supervisor, who was a very kind, generous person, had a very nice interaction during the interview, wanted to know what I did in medical school, why I'm looking for this job, etc. But then very politely say, Anando, you did very well, but you speak so softly. How would you, conduct training sessions of hundreds of vaccinators, in villages? And I said, I mean, I'm speaking with you in this room, so I'm trying, of course, to speak in an appropriate voice. But if I have to throw my voice, if I have to shout out loud, in a room full of people, I would try to do that, just as an example. And then I went to Delhi, had another round of interviews with the WHO Delhi team. That was also a bit of a first for me. Again, in those ages, I was 25, I think, and traveling on a train alone was a bit of a extension of what I used to do in my day-to-day life. And then I did get the job offer and did know that I'll be placed in a city called Silchar in Assam. And again, I had to, look up as to where exactly it is, what we are getting into. Those days, northeastern India was seen more as, one of the so-called, quote, disturbed, unquote, region. So there was a lot of feedback from my parents as well. That, are you sure? What are you getting into? I mean, you just graduated. You could have just started your clinic. Why are you moving to Assam, and those kind of stuff. But I did take that decision. That was my first ever plane ride, from Kolkata to Silchar. That was an experience in itself. But then to your second question, my first day in Silchar was horrible, Sudip, because I was scared, I was stressed out, I was sad that I left my city, I left my friends who were so dear to me, my family, of course, my brothers. I have twin brothers, very close to me as well. So I was devastated. I decided that I'm going to come back. This is not for me. It was very, very painful. Maybe Manoj and you also went through that when you moved to.
Yeah, you also told me previously it's the same thing.
That's right. Yes. So I called my friends from Silchar that this is not what I'm taking. I'm just going back. I can't leave. Can't leave my city and can't live like this. So that was tough. I didn't know how to live alone, and it took some time for me to get adjusted. And one secret I would share with you, that throughout my stay in Silchar, I couldn't stay in a rented place because I had to stay alone there, and I was scared of so many things. So I ended up living in a hotel for that entire period. Almost 2 years that I was posted on and off in Silchar. There was a hotel room that was reserved for me, and I just stayed there, feeling that there are many people around me, although I don't know them, but at least I didn't feel alone. So yeah, Sudip, that was kind of the first day or the first experience of my first ever job.
That's really, thanks for sharing that, because I think people who are listening to this would now think, yes, this person is human. So because sometimes people tend to see someone's achievement and they think it's from day one. I think this is very important to have that this kind of experience revealed, so that people should think that whatever they feel is normal. Whatever they feel is absolutely fine. It's just how you grow from there is more important.
True.
My next question is that from WHO to Gates Foundation. It's a transition change or change organization also. So when you think about that, and what is your current role in Gates Foundation?
Yeah, thank you, Manoj. That was a big transition and didn't happen over time. So just to explain, while I was working in India with WHO's polio project, I was fascinated with the field work. As a field epidemiologist, I simply loved my job. This opportunity to interact with the communities, to conduct vaccination campaigns, to search for paralyzed kids, and then to evaluate why paralysis was still happening. All of that fascinated me, but I did realize that I needed formal training in global health, in public health, in epidemiology, because what I knew were the basics from medical school, but I needed to know more, needed to understand the discipline more. So I did take this, I would call it quite a big decision, to leave WHO and go for further studies. I applied to different universities. I got admitted at Harvard, and I decided to go to Harvard to do my master's in public health. But again, that was yet another important decision. Initially I left my city, and this was leaving the country, and also that was a major difficult decision point. But I completed my master's at Harvard in Boston, United States, and then I actually worked in the United States in a state health department in Rhode Island as a field epidemiologist, as an infectious disease epidemiologist. And that was my opportunity to learn the US way of epidemiology practice. And then, Manoj, I applied for the Gates Foundation role in polio research. And I thought that this would be a great transition from me. I had I had experience with polio epidemiology and vaccine campaign monitoring and surveillance related activities. But the research part of it, vaccine research and epidemiologic research, were things that I didn't quite do. So this role fascinated me from that perspective. I applied, I went through several rounds of interviews, and then I was selected for the role. So this was 2012, so nearly 13, 14 years ago, when I moved to Seattle, joined Gates Foundation, and then I have been there ever since, and my role has evolved over time, and now I have the opportunity to lead the global research activities to facilitate polio eradication.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice story. Very really, I think it's the transition to something like this from classical medicine and how you really paved your way through. I think it's very inspiring for our listeners as well. I think you would also agree with that, Manoj, I guess.
Yep. Definitely. Means it's quite, not quite, it's definitely inspiring. And always chasing the curiosity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's it.
So yeah, is there I think in one of your first days, did you have to make decisions right away, or did you had a phase where you were still learning?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of both. In the initial few weeks to months, and I would say even now, I think we are always learning. I think that doesn't
Yes.
stop. But the intensive learning phase were probably the initial few months. But at the same time, the viruses do not stop, while we are
Exactly.
learning, while we are
Yeah.
going through vacation or taking weekends and, getting into new jobs. They are spreading. They are, persistent in what they do. So I think that pressure, that inherent drive is always there, that you got to be ahead of these viruses and these pathogens. I think, yeah, even during week one, day one, and so forth, there were things that you had to get onto and start implementing. But as an organization, it's very enabling, supportive of your growth and your learning. So yes, I did have the opportunity as well over several weeks, months, to understand how the organization works and then what exactly my role was.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And actually, as you said, viruses don't stop. And I think on the same note, I would ask, like in an outbreak, or like let's say a fast-moving outbreak. Let's take example of recently COVID or any other viruses for that matter. How do you decide when there's good enough data to act, or how does that line look like?
Oh, that's a very good question, a difficult one. I don't know if there is one right answer to that one. It is really what I call a benefit risk assessment that you have to constantly do to understand the benefits of the potential intervention tools that you have. It could be vaccines, it could be detection tools, it could be therapeutics, it could be other forms of public health intervention. At the same time, you got to understand the risks of not responding urgently, right? Every day that you're waiting to get to that perfect or near perfect tool, the pathogens are creating havoc in the society, right? I mean, either causing paralysis like polio does, or with COVID-19, as we saw, a lot of morbidity and death and the risk of spread. So it's that constant stress between the benefits of an evolving tool that you may want to apply, and at the same time, the risks that you're seeing. And each disease, each public health condition would probably have a different benefit risk assessment. And based on that understanding, Sudip, you probably take a call as to when it's that time to intervene. Of course, to your point, the integrity of the data that you're looking at is extremely important. And I think you and your team should know to how to really understand if what you're seeing is the real data. You're analyzing it, you're putting things into context. So that is the background work part, where you have systems in place to ensure that the data is correct, the trends are in the direction that you have the right interpretation around it, and then you apply, as I said, that benefit risk assessment and see if it is the right time for the tools that you may already have, or maybe you are developing to start applying. So I think that's what you typically do.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Since you are a specialist for polio, talk us through about polio. I think it's been, for our audience, also been a long time that we heard something about polio. Talk us through the current scenario in the next minute or so. What's going on with polio?
Yeah, I mean, you haven't heard much because of the vaccines. The vaccines work.
Definitely. Yes.
And it prevents and stops polio from most part of the world. And India is an example where we all grew up. India at one time saw lots of paralyzed child from polio, and since 2011, it has never really seen a polio child from wild polio virus. So it's a tremendous achievement. And similar situation in most part of the world, where with intense vaccination activities, polio virus transmission has really stopped in most countries. There are only two countries in the world where polio is still endemic, which means polio transmission never stopped in those two countries, and those are Pakistan and Afghanistan. It's more geopolitics, more issues around access that really has interrupted progress in those two countries. There are few polio variant outbreaks that we are seeing also elsewhere, particularly in the African continent, where a variant form of polio virus is circulating. So this is the overall, in a very quick nutshell, the global picture. Polio is very close to being eradicated, given the progress that I just mentioned. And if it happens, it will be the second human disease ever to get eradicated, which means that it will be gone from the world, and that's a permanent departure, right? I mean, when it is gone forever. That's typically, the definition of eradication is. So yeah, that's where things are with polio. And one thing to note, it's a highly infectious disease, and it is the longest lasting public health emergency of international concern. So we know COVID-19, the pandemic, was a public health emergency. As an example, monkeypox was also a global health emergency. Polio is also a global health emergency. And not only that, as I said, from 2014 onwards, it has consistently been designated by the international health regulations as a public health emergency. So you can understand the importance in global health of this disease, that it is designated at that highest alert level, given the risk of spread. And if it spreads, it typically requires international coordination to respond.
Right. I think since it is actually, as you said, let's say a coordinated effort on all sides, and all sort of stakeholders involved, I would like to ask, what moves the needle the most in this case? Is it the technology itself, which behind, let's say, a vaccine? Is it the surveillance, or is it the operation on ground? So which is and also which needs more funding in current scenario?
Yeah, all 3+1. I think it's the technology, the vaccine tools, surveillance, the program to deliver these tools, but on top of it, the global coordination and funding. It's a huge program, because just to make you understand, typically the vaccine programs work in a way where the parents are bringing the child to the healthcare center to get the children vaccinated, right? In the polio program, it's mostly the other way around, where the vaccinators or the health workers, the volunteers, they are going from one house to the other, from one doorstep to the other, to vaccinate the children. So it's a very different approach, given how infectious this virus is and the target to eradicate. That's the approach. So it takes a lot of funding, lot of coordination, local, national, and international, to get that work done. So Sudip, it's really all of them. But I would underscore the importance of delivery. You may have the perfect tool, be it vaccine tool or the surveillance tool, but you need really dedicated people to deliver in difficult circumstances, be it difficult, volatile geopolitical circumstances like what we are seeing in some parts of the world, or even geographically difficult terrains. So it's really that delivery part, the vaccination part, that makes it different and more challenging than some of the other programs. So yeah, it's a combination. Yeah.
Nice. Very interesting. Also, I mean, since we knew that you would be coming on to our to talk with us, I always had this question. Okay, let's say you're a person of science there in the leading this team, a bunch of people. I would call it herding the elephants, because you have also people who are, let's say, bigger in their, how do you say that, like bigger stakeholders, be it politicians, be it funders, be it. How do you bring these people together? How do you gain their trust? And how do you put your point forward? Must be a really tough task to do.
It is. And, again, I think it's that inherent drive as to why you are doing what you are doing, brings in, the elements that resonates with no matter who you're talking with. For me, the biggest, stakeholder here, on one hand, are the communities. They are the biggest ones, no matter who I'm talking to. Is it the prime minister, the president, the CEO, or the top leader of an organization? For me, the biggest stakeholder, is really the people at risk of virus transmission. And I think most of the leaders would kind of understand that, and this would resonate with them. I think, on the other hand, the other extreme of the biggest, character here is the virus itself. It's a very notorious and smart virus that we are dealing with, and every moment that we lose, it's an opportunity for the virus to replicate and infect a new child with lifelong paralysis. That risk is always there. So it is always that tension that plays in. So what I try to do is to absolutely be honest about the data that we are seeing and present it, that way to people. But of course, depending on the group, depending on the nature of the stakeholders, you translate it in a way that it resonates with those stakeholders. But no matter what I'm talking about, if it is deep science around vaccine development and the different technologies that we apply, at the core of it, as I said, is the people. I think, and I keep it that way. I don't talk about numbers when we talk about how many cases are there. We always bring it down to the fact that these are children, these are future possibilities that have already been lost with the polio virus infecting them, and we need to be desperate to stop the virus. So I think that's the flavor. That's what I typically bring in. But of course, you have to adjust it in terms of the granularity based on who you're talking with.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that was really good that you said the biggest stakeholder there are the people. So I think that I missed, but I think that's a very good point. I think this is sort of probably your pitch as well, that hey, we are all sitting in the room and talking about it, but actually the biggest stakeholder is other people. Also, since you mentioned about polio and how successfully we are eradicating it, is it? And I assume that India also had a very high incidence, and since we have a larger population, I would say a number of cases were also high. What do you think actually worked out for India in this case, and what could other people learn from it, or the efforts were similar globally as we did?
It was very complex, very difficult in India. It's, as you know very well, it's a populous country with a lot of complexities. Different geographies, are there, difficult terrains, and resources were limited. So there were many, many difficulties. What really worked was not really a single thing, but if I have to choose one, I would say it's that coming together of the country. This coordination that happened from at the village level to the urban cities, to the national coordination bodies, to the global support. I think things came together, and I think the country was unified with this cause to stop a disease forever. And I think with that, there was a lot of political commitment as well, which translated to our previous point into action. In terms of supporting the vaccination and the surveillance activities, not only from a philosophical point of view, but also from a financial standpoint. I think there was a lot of ownership that the Indian leadership at the state and at the country level took to decisively stop polio, but working with people who had deep knowledge of stopping it elsewhere. So that global and national coordination got translated into very local level. Again, powered by financial support, technical support from all different directions. And finally, the societal awareness was very prominent, with prominent personalities also coming forward, from the film world or from other popular media. There was a lot of buzz around the polio Sundays, the importance of vaccination. So all of those things were important, but it was grounded with this idea that as one country, for our own people, this is something that we all need to do, and that's how things really happened.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for answering that. Manoj, do you have any? You must have more questions for sure.
I don't have that question. It's your take. That's right.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead with. Maybe we also have a focus on trying to get something out of you for our students and for our budding scientists. So I think that Manoj might have some in that regard.
No, I have a question regarding not career orient. I have a question regarding, if you're not in this profession, which profession you would choose? I know it's
That's a good one.
I ask it myself, and I don't know. I just so love, the medical and public health profession, this spectrum of knowing medical science, but applying it at a scale that is, that is really public health, where you're thinking about the communities and not just individuals. I think I'm very lucky, very fortunate that my interests were aligned with what I get to do. So it's very hard for me to think about what else I could have done. I have to be honest. I think during my school days, high school days, I was inclined towards literature. And I think if you would have asked me then, I would have said, maybe I'll become a professor in Bangla or English. I really used to love, reading poems and novels. I still have a lot of books all around me. So I think that could have been, one alternative to write, to reflect and write about life and people. That could have been the other one.
Yeah, we also saw you on your back.
A lot of books. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mix of my favorite personalities, and there is no one rule. So there is, of course, Rabindranath Tagore. I'm deeply inspired by his work, as most people are, especially of Bengali origin. There is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, again another personality that I'm deeply inspired by, the courage and the vision that he had. And there is also A.R. Rahman. I think in our generation, that's one person that deeply inspires me, with not only his work, which in itself is so inspiring, but also as a person. I think, with the kind of achievements that he had, he's so deeply grounded and modest and still focused on the work that he does. I think so. So those are the three images there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was actually one of Manoj's question. I know he asks this all the time to everyone, like who are the people you look up to, scientists and non-scientists. But I think you already answered this question.
Yeah, I'm always interested to learn, know the things, a scientist or a professor, a award winner, whom they look always,
Look up to.
I look after my professor, my parents, Sudip da, also you, and I grow, and I get inspired from Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, as you mentioned that, and also my first influence Jagadish Chandra Bose.
Yeah, I think these are very important to have some of those pivots, that inspire, and I have consciously kept them together. People intuitively ask, "Oh, do you think then they are comparable?" Absolutely no. I mean, there's no comparison. They're all different people, but they touch my soul some way or the other, and I think it's for me it's important to acknowledge that. And I think for me it's very, very inspiring to to have those people. Of course, they are prominent personalities. I have photos of my grandma and my family members and friends as well, and they also of course inspire me in different ways. And I think we all have people like them in our lives somewhere or the other. It's more the fact to be aware, conscious, and open about it, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I think this is very, and as you said, the literature inclination, and it's not a surprise that being from Bengal, that is one of the side effects, which we
can do that.
So I was also, although I would say I would not have succeeded that well, maybe I don't know if I'm a good thinker, but I've always been fascinated by literature as such, with all the inspiring figures we have, from that area. Talking about inspiration, I think actually what I would move the conversation to is something for our audiences, people who are let's say in their masters or PhD or something like that. If you have to give them, let's say, a roadmap for the next 1 year to make them more hireable or make them more attractive, what would you say to concentrate on the most?
Yeah, I think the basic formula is there is no formula. I think that we have to understand. There is no one rule that fits all. I think where it all starts is the conviction to be yourself. I think no matter what, if you are honest in understanding your capabilities, reflecting them in your communications style and conversations, and also drawing an arc with the kind of work that you have done, the kind of work that you're trained to do, and then the extension to what you want to do. And it could be a big leap, at certain points of time, but that vision should be there, but it should be grounded in honesty and with core integrity. So I think that's the mantra, to be yourself, but at the same time, bring in some amount of absoluteness in honesty, in integrity, and don't be afraid to have visions that are big. But at the same time, I think it's critical to remain grounded. So I think that's what I would suggest.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. I think I always also coincidentally say the same thing to to everyone, that be yourself, be real, talk about the skills you're bringing to the table, try to always learn. And I think this is the most important part. I think, and I ask this question to you because you have met with so many different types of people. You have talked to different perspectives. You've gained different perspectives. And so, what works at the end, as you gave your opinion on it, and you must have this opinion because you've observed this to be working. And I think this is more important to have this opinion for us and for our audience, because people would think. I have also talked to people. They always wonder, "Hey, I don't know what works." But I think this is very, very nice of you to give us also that perspective, which must come from what you've observed. Right? Yeah, nice. I think there are two questions from. So I think last two questions I would also ask. This is sort of a customary question for me, because as a scientist, I always think of this as well, because it has large applications on different fields of science. Artificial intelligence. Since you come from public health, where we have lots of data, it becomes more relevant. What is your opinion on AI, and where do you think it will will it drive your field forward, or what is the current opinion on?
I think it's very exciting, and it's a promising new horizon that's opening up, or already has opened up in front of us. And I think we are all learning as we speak. But what I would say, in a quick summary, I think we have to humanize AI application as well. And I think it's very important to ensure there is a sense of equity when we use AI or interpret AI-driven data. So, many a times since some of the large language models or similar modalities and tools are developed more, keeping the Western hemisphere in mind, we see biases. And I think how to counter them, how to, as I said, humanize it, more contextualize to the people that really need some of those applications, particularly in public health. I think that will be the next phase. But it's very promising. And even within my work, in the vaccine spectrum, we're trying to utilize, understand the applications of AI more on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, overall, very promising though.
Nice. And the last question from my side, I think, would be, what is the next, let's say, as someone from public health, what do you see as the biggest challenge in public health in the next, let's say, decade or so? Is there any?
There are many, as I think you alluded to, but I think if I have to think about one, especially given what we are seeing around us, it's really for us, the people, to be united as we try to fight the pathogens who are extremely united. If you think about the pathogens, if you think about the viruses and the bacteria, they don't care about nationalities, citizenship, and visa status, and religion, or societal background, caste, and whatnot, political affiliations, right? They infect anyone and everyone as long as there is vulnerability, as long as there is no protection, no immunity against those pathogens. So if I keep saying that from that perspective, the viruses and the pathogens are very noble. They don't discriminate. I think sometimes we discriminate more with those prejudices and those things that we have in us. I think we have to really move beyond that. I think we have to really come together as a community, as a human community in the world, and got to fight these diseases. And the way it happens is to mobilize funding around the important health programs, mobilize technical resources to better inform the ways to stop these diseases and the pathogens, and then strengthen, empower, enable the healthcare workers, the people who really take the tools to the people. I think all of that will have to happen, and I see, that risk of us not being together enough as a global community as the biggest threat in public health in the coming 10 years or so.
That's actually a very good take on it. We are the biggest threat. That's actually an excellent take on it. I really like it. Thank you. Manoj, I think if you have more, do we discuss something more?
No.
So
thanks a lot. Actually,
we thought of we usually do it for like an hour or so. So for us, it's already quite on time.
Thanks a lot for managing your precious time to share your thought toward the science, toward the society. It means a lot for me. Thanks a lot, both of you.
Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Please take care. Okay.
Yes.